Welcome back to the Miguel's Cover Show with me, Miguel's Cover, and then we're talking about Kamen Rider OOO. Kamen Rider OOO follows the story of broke wanderer Eiji Hino, who one day is trusted with the power of a device known as the OOO's driver. By this body arm named Ankh. Ankh is a part of an ancient race of beings known as the Greed, who were sealed away a long time ago, before being woken up in the modern day. Now awake, the Greed seek to gain each of their remaining core metals, the thing that gives them sentience in life. As the name probably implies, they'll do anything to achieve this goal. Ankh, despite working with Eiji, is no different, being ready to double cross him the minute he gets all his cores, and stops being an arm that's latched onto this almost dead guy's body. So now it's up to Eiji to become OOO's and protect the world from the Greed. He's joined in this mission by Hina Izumi, the sister of the guy Ankh's controlling, and members of the Kogami Foundation, who have been dedicated to studying the core metals and OOO's for years. Them using this research to develop the system for Kamen Rider birth uses the power of cell metals, a secondary version of the metals used to form the body of the Greed. This power being taken up by Date Akira and his partner Goto. OOO's is kind of weird to talk about for me. Because on one hand, I think the characters and overall story are pretty good, but the actual watching experience is a little weak in my opinion. Like, I'll be watching an episode and Eiji and Ankh are having some really good moments that further talk to the partnership, and then get bored out of my mind when we've switched to the most boring watch of the week plot ever executed. A problem that never really goes away until like halfway through. I had the same problem with Deno, which is written by the same person as those. Whereas much I love the main cast, the actual watch experience episode to episode wasn't where it needed to be, and sadly I think OOO's ain't much better in that area. I still have a stronger plot helping it when you decide to actually lock in on like with Deno. But again, the characters are pretty good, and what makes the show at least worth watching once. So let's talk about them. Starting out with Eiji Hino, our main character, who at first just seems like a typical goody two-shoes nice guy protagonist, and he's pretty good in the role, so I liked him. However, you eventually learn that his personality hides a much more harmful mindset. The reason Eiji is so perfect for fighting the Greed is that he has no desire at all, not even to be a hero. He even says in the early episodes that he fights not because he's a good guy, but because he can't help himself. Eiji became like this due to an incident where he, as the son of a Japanese Congress member, tried and failed to stop a war in an African village, where Eiji would watch a girl get blown up in front of him. Eiji being brought back to Japan with no way to properly cope with what he saw, him just bumping around until he became OOO's. Something that helps to make Eiji so much more interesting, especially how the show portrays his martyr complex as nothing but a character flaw. Eiji creating greater problems for himself and the people around him due to his compulsion to just rush in and protect people. Something made even worse once the dinosaur core metals enter his body and make him slowly turn to a Greed and lose his mind every time he transforms. And obviously Eiji isn't going to stop transforming because no one else can fight the Greed as well as he can. Which, to be fair, he's right most of the time, but the inability to even take a backseat of the births and Ankh, or even just be smart about how he uses his powers, is ultimately his problem. Eiji only overcoming this by realizing that he doesn't need to be the one always protecting people, and that despite the tragedy that happened to him, he has the right to have the desire, to want more out of life than just being a guy who fights and protects until he burns out and dies. Eiji lives at the end because he finally learns to be selfish and lean on others. And I think that makes him a pretty good protagonist in my book. I also really like how they characterize him in his relationship with Ankh, because at no point on the show does Eiji let himself get caught up in any relationship the two of them are forming. He being ready to kill the bird arm the second he poses a real threat to humanity. Only trusting Ankh through their continuous interaction throughout the show, instead of just blindly having faith in him. Which really helps to characterize Eiji as nice but not stupid. And it makes it all the more tragic when you learn about the martyr stuff, because it makes Eiji's actions and inability to accept others' help feel like a nasty habit instead of an oversight like it does for a lot of other Kamen Rider protagonists in this type of situation. A difference that not only helps Eiji stand out as a main writer, but the reason he's such an interesting character to watch throughout the series. Something boasted even more with Ankh, our secondary main character. Ankh as a Greed is, well, greedy, not caring about anyone or anything but their core metals. Him not changing until basically the end of the show. Like, every moment you think him and Eiji might be growing a little closer, you think in the back of your head that you'd probably kill him with no remorse depending on the circumstance. Which alone would make him really interesting, because most Kamen Rider characters that take Ankh's role are cool with the main character either from episode 1, or at least by like episode 20 instead of like episode 40 like it is with Ankh. But the thing that makes him really interesting is what he's greedy over. It being that Ankh wants to free himself from the shortcomings of being a Greed. Because as we learn, once Eiji starts becoming one, all Greeds live with a void in their souls, being unable to taste food, enjoy the color and sounds of the world, or feel anything other than intense want for something. Something that repulses Ankh because by hanging out with Eiji and everyone else, he knows there's more to life than just being an empty pile of metals whose only motivation is wanting something. The show even uses to reframe his decision to take over Hina's brother's body, as at first it's just another example of his greed, to take over this random guy's body. But now you learn that Ankh lived his entire life as a sense-deprived coin organism. It kind of hits deeper. Like, the first thing Ankh eats in his body is popsicles, and he immediately makes part of his deal with Eiji that he gives him money to pay for them. A goofy quirk turned to a tragic part of the character once he realized that he loves and cherishes popsicles because they're the first thing he's ever gotten to taste in his entire life. The first symbol of what he could gain if he just stopped being a Greed. And it makes it all the more sad and meaningful that Ankh uses his last moments of being alive to help Eiji realize that he needs to find something to want for. Because despite all the drama and tension between them, Eiji gave him the personhood that he wanted. No longer will he die as a pile of coins, but instead as a real person to be remembered. outnumbered. Eiji no longer needed to reach out to his hands, but to the hands of all the people still looking and fighting for their desires, and find his own. Like, he's literally being selfless to try and tell Eiji it's okay to be selfish. It's so gas for these two characters, man. Show the growth that they were able to both reach over the series. Also, in the final battle, they used the form based on Ankh, Tajidor, which is O's best suit, and the little touches they add during the final fight of Ankh's voices, replacing the belt announcer, him just appearing to help Eiji as he's too weak to exist outside the metals. It's just so gas, man. Really good character, these two, man. I guess this is where I should talk about the other greets that I just ranted about Ankh. They're okay. Ankh and the twist of them explaining their plight kind of carries them, if I'm being honest. Like, I think this Gamel's guy's relationship with Mazul is weird. But seeing him being able to have those type of feelings about him supposedly not being able to due to his nature as a greed does make me feel a little something, I guess. But again, as I said, his relationship with Mazul is weird. For some reason, they decided that she should be played by a 13-year-old. Made even weirder because Mazul's whole thing is that she desires to have children. Her relationship with Gamel because he acts like a child. Like, was there no one older they could have casted as this character? They got an older actress for the monster voice, which again makes the casting choice weird because the three guys are all played by the same actors in their monster and human forms. Like, it doesn't even make sense in the show because their human forms are supposed to be based on humans they feel suited them. And the character whose whole thing is being a mom decided that she wanted to look like a middle schooler? Like, I'm not crazy, right? Uwe and Kazari are cool though. Probably helps to there in more of the show and just have fun personalities. Kazari being a conniving trickster, and Uwe just kind of being a chill dude. Like, he'd probably be a cool guy to hang out with if he didn't want to kill people. After that, you have Dr. Maki, the main antagonist, and he's a really good foil to Eiji, as he also doesn't have a true desire, because he thinks that things only have value when they die, wanting to destroy the whole world by becoming a greed. Luffy again, after his older sister, whom he saw as kind, showed herself to be mean and terrible right before dying. Him being happy that she died, so he can fixate on all the good memories they had together, and that with the hard reality that his sister was a much more flawed person than he thought. Terrible way to think, but a little closer to how Eiji thinks than we might like to admit. As Eiji's whole hero without a desire thing will only end in him dying eventually, his efforts being seen as beautiful once he's no longer here, and can't harp on his failures to save people in the past, which is something that fits right in with Maki's worldview. They even show that Maki's fall into darkness even through having no one around him, as a respected member of the Kogami Foundation, and even has a relationship with its boss. But that didn't stop him from wanting everyone to die, the same way all of Eiji's friends telling him to stop trying to sacrifice himself didn't stop him from continuing to do that, which makes it all the more important that Ankh is the one who gets through to Eiji, as the reason Maki becomes a greed it works for them is that he sees them as disposable in some way. The greed being below his beliefs about death, because to him, they don't have lives, just being walking talking piles of coin. So one of those walking talking piles of coins being him, and saying that he's fine with dying because he did have a life, is the ultimate defeat to his beliefs. A being he thought is below having a life gets a beautiful death while he gets sucked up into a black hole with little to no fanfare. After Maki, we don't really have a lot left to talk about. I mean, there's Date and Goto, who are both Kamen Rider birth, but if I could be honest, I just think one of them is cool and the other is just okay. Like, sure, it's interesting seeing Date have this massive desire wanting 100 million yen, how he easily picks up on Eiji's lack of desire, but I like him way more just because I think he's cool and funny before any of that. Goto, on the other hand, I just never gravitated towards. Like, I think his arc of learning the proper way of how to become a hero and saving people, him losing and regaining his pride over the series, is decent, but I just wasn't too invested. Probably doesn't help that his arc ends with him becoming the main birth over Date. And no disrespect, but that's a massive aura loss, if you ask me. But in the end, Kamen Rider OOO is pretty decent. I might not want to watch this show in full again, but as you can tell, I still like the joint. This will be the last recent old Kamen Rider show we'll be talking about for a while, because our last 4 entries before we talk about the 2 anniversary series are all at the start of the Heisei era. So see you with videos on them soon. See you in another review. Miguel signing out.
No more, no less. That's the magic number.